Got skill, little dude.
Ratchet and Clank have been on countless adventures since their very first outing on the PlayStation 2. But when they have already saved the universe so many times from villain after villain, what is really left for them? Well, the developers at Insomniac decided that maybe it was time to revisit their very first iteration of the dynamic duo and give it a fresh coat of paint. But they didn't just remaster the game with updated graphics and voice acting, they also took extra steps to enhance the story of Ratchet and Clank, update the controls, and add some new features and weapons. This isn't just a cut and dry remake, it's a brand new game, and frankly, it's for the better. This version is superior to the original in almost every way, whether it be graphically, narratively, or mechanically. The Ratchet and Clank Remake is the definitive version of the Ratchet and Clank origin story. The story of Ratchet and Clank is roughly the same, with a few minor tweaks here and there to ensure a more enjoyable gameplay experience this time around. Now, Ratchet and Clank seem more like the dream team that they were always meant to be. The two heroes actually appreciate each other's company, which wasn't the case in the original game. The two weren't too fond of each other in the first game, and only worked together out of necessity, creating an almost uncomfortable relationship between the heroes. The overall plot is virtually the same. Chairman Drek wants to create the perfect planet out of different pieces of other planets, and Ratchet and Clank must stop him. But this time, they have some help. A new team of heroes is introduced into this version of the game, and they are known as the Galactic Rangers. The leader is the familiar Captain Quark, who is just as goofy and sly as ever, then Cora, who acts as Ratchet's partner on most missions in the game. Brax is yet another muscle-bound alien that is all about action, guns, and explosions. Then rounding out the team is Alaris, who functions as the team's main intel operative, working behind the scenes on most missions, monitoring the Rangers' progress. And where would a story be without conflict? The cast of villains trying to disrupt Ratchet and Clank's adventure begin with Chairman Drek, who plays the rich tycoon that feels he can get whatever he wants, whenever he wants it, just because. Also, an old favorite returns, Dr. Nefarious, who is the main villain behind most of the other games in the series, representing the mad scientist bent on getting his revenge on Captain Quark, Ratchet, and Clank. This game is also jam-packed with additional characters, like a few staples of the series making cameo appearances in the game, as well as some brand new faces that play minor roles in the narrative. While the story is fun and fresh, it just doesn't have that same kind of charm that some of the other Ratchet and Clank games have had in the past. It is definitely better than the original game, but that's not saying much. In my opinion, the original Ratchet and Clank is one of the worst in the series, and this reimagining of that adventure falls just between good and mediocre. The story here is extremely linear when compared to the other Ratchet and Clank games. There just isn't a whole lot of deviation from the main plot. That's something I enjoyed most about the other games, as well as the goofy advertisements for the battle arena and the many entertaining cutscenes that would follow optional missions. It's not to say the main plot isn't full of humor, which is to be expected, but it's just not the same type of narrative I appreciated in previous games. I would say that this game is one of the speedier games in the series. I beat it in just a few sittings and am close to completing all side objectives in just one 8-hour playthrough. I would have liked to spend more time on each planet, completing optional missions like in previous games, but sadly, most of the planets take roughly 30 minutes to complete the main mission and all side quests. Even though the missions are rather short, they are still fun to play with the improvement on mechanics from not only the original game, but probably over all games in the series. The most notable addition was the ability to strafe, which was absent in the original. This makes combat in the game much easier. All of the controls felt very smooth and natural, which allowed me to waltz through each level with ease. Using all of Ratchet's weapons and gadgets are still as fun as ever, and the weapon selection feels like a greatest hits of the series. It is like they selected the best weapons from each game to put into your arsenal. Some of the weapons may have different names, but they essentially have the same function. My personal favorite, Mr. Zircon, has been included in this game, and there's some brand new weapons. One of them, called the Pixelizer, functions as a shotgun that transforms enemies into pixels. All of these goofy weapons make fighting enemies extremely amusing, especially when using multiple weapons at the same time to create maximum chaos on the screen. While Ratchet's arsenal is better than ever in this game, he seems to be severely lacking in the gadgets department. Ratchet only has access to a few gadgets and only a handful get used regularly, like the Swing Shot or the Trespasser. but he also has gadgets like the Hydro Displacer and the Hologuise that get hardly any use at all. I would have liked to see more use from some of the lesser gadgets, which would have made them hold more value. However, they just don't get as much love as some of the others. But there was so much fan service put into this game that the lack of gadgets couldn't keep me down for long. So much in the game references other games in the franchise. Some of them were subtle nods, like the Fongoid people in the audience during hoverboard races, while others were more obvious, like the card collections that displayed different characters and weapons from previous games. The cards are probably my favorite on the account that they come with a description of each card, and upon completing a set, Ratchet gets a stat boost in his weapons or abilities. There are also features like a concept art gallery that grants the player access to different concept pieces for the game. Cheats in appearance settings are also prevalent, letting the player change the screen filter or toggling infinite ammo on or off. The Ratchet and Clank remake provides all kinds of extra content that any fan of the series would appreciate. The Ratchet and Clank remake isn't a perfect Ratchet and Clank game. It isn't even close to being a perfect game, period. But the game does what it set out to do, which is retell the original story in a more satisfying way than its previous iteration. It's a gorgeous game that will stun players with its Pixar-inspired graphics and delivers on gameplay and fan services. However, it doesn't have the same kind of charm that a lot of the other Ratchet games had, and it's extremely linear compared to its predecessors. That being said, Ratchet and Clank Remake is still an extremely entertaining game that Ratchet fans and first-timers will enjoy. Thanks for watching my video review of the Ratchet and Clank Remake for PS4. If you liked the video, go and press the like button. If you disliked it, press that dislike button. It helps me out knowing how you felt about the video. You can also leave comments below, letting me know what I'm doing well in the videos and what I need to improve upon. I want to get better and better at making these videos, and any criticism you may have would be extremely helpful. If you want to read my written review of the Ratchet and Clank Remake for PS4, you can check it out with the link to my blog in the description below. If you want to subscribe to my channel, click the button to the left. If you want to check out my video review of Uncharted 4 for PS4, click the video to the right. Thanks again for watching, and good night!